All right, thank you for staying with us. It has been common practice for previous administrations to rely heavily on borrowing to fund the economy. But this time, President Bola Tinubu has announced a shift from the norm under his administration. He says he has no intention to borrow from any local or foreign organization, even with the removal of petrol subsidy and the current exchange rate. This was disclosed by the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Wale Edun, at the end of the maiden Federal Executive Council meeting, presided over by President Bola Tinubu at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. The federal government also revealed that it inherited a bad economy with an unacceptably high rate of unemployment. And in addressing this, the president promised to create about 50 million jobs through the Ministry of Trade and Investment. He said his administration is committed to reviving the country's ailing economy. Well, joining us via Zoom is Director, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, Dr. Muda Yusuf. Dr. Yusuf, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Right. Now, the president said that 90% of our revenue is being used to finance our debt, to service our debts, and that we are not in any state of borrowing as it is. We do not have that ability. But I wonder what came to mind when you heard this statement by the president saying he is not looking into borrowing as it is.
Well, I think one of the significance, or one major significance of that pronouncement was the fact that this government is on the course of correcting a number which all the reforms that has been undertaken is all about. So the reforms are corrective in nature. Therefore, the management of the economy is not going to be as it used to be. I think basically that is what it's all about. You know, he said that we have come to a point in our fiscal operations where almost 90% of our revenue is being used to service debt. That means there is very urgent need for fiscal reforms, for tax reforms, for expenditure reforms, for budgetary reforms. That is the import of what the president and the finance minister have said. And the process has already commenced with corrective reforms that has taken place with respect to the fuel subsidy removal, even though it's a very painful one, but it's a policy that was inevitable. Then the second major reform was the foreign exchange convergence, exchange rate convergence, you know, which also has its own negative fallouts, but again, something that was inevitable. So from a fiscal consolidation point of view, or from a fiscal point of view, these two reforms alone is likely to, improve the revenue of governments by a minimum of 10 trillion naira annually. I know when you are talking about not wanting to borrow or you are borrowing, it's a function of the status of your revenue. So if you improve your revenue, then you are likely to avoid the risk or the chances of the need to borrow. So it's an issue both for revenue optimization and for cost minimization. Steps are also being taken, at least from what we are hearing, about how to also reduce costs. Although there are concerns about the size of the cabinet, but at least there's a recent announcement about the delegation to UNGA, that is the UN General Assembly meeting, and so on and so forth. But we are yet to see more in the area of cost reduction. But the whole idea is to look at the two sides of the equation, the revenue and the cost. We should maximize revenue and we should reduce costs. And I think that is what the government is trying to put across.
Well, ending borrowings is a very significant goal. And we know that there are so many projects for the government to do, road infrastructure, the electricity is there, funding, security, paying salaries, etc. So there will always be this urge to wanting to go at borrowing because they want to deliver on the dividends of democracy, which the mandate they've given them. So, but then how do you think they should, put this into plan in order to, finance its own operations and development projects without having to resort to borrowing when push comes to shove?
Now, the administration has set up this Tax and Fiscal Reform Committee. One of the key mandates of that committee is to see how we can improve revenue. And I'm sure that at the end of the day, we see a significant improvement in revenue. Because what we are talking about is how to get the revenue to finance the operations of government and also to deliver on some critical projects that will impact on the lives of the people and improve the business environment as well. Things like infrastructure, like security, like social intervention, and so on. So that committee is going to come up with very, very robust recommendations, which will plug leakages in government revenue, which will also ensure that we're able to make the tax administration much more efficient than what it is. And more importantly, which will also ensure that all the revenue-generating agencies of government actually contribute or remit what they are supposed to remit to the federation account. And this will not only benefit the federal government, it's going to benefit all tiers of government. So this pressure to borrow or these financial constraints, once this efficiency improvements takes place with respect to fiscal reforms and tax reforms, practically all tiers of government will benefit. And we are beginning to see evidence of that. At the last FAC allocation, that is Federal Revenue Allocation meeting, they had the revenue to be distributed, I think, close to 2 trillion. This is a level of revenue that we have never seen in many years, to the extent that only part of it was even distributed because of, the liquidity implications of distributing everything. So this is a path that the government is following, and I think it's a very good path. But we need to complement that with also the reduction in the cost of government.